Even one down the sideline, and he's got Carson over the top. Big side, down the sideline. Touchdown. His signature move and his signature performance. Allen, big ball one more time. 58 yards this time.
You're listening to the Bruin Bible. This is your host, Will Decker, bringing you UCLA football content all throughout the year for LA Football Network. Bruin Bible listeners, we've got a special sponsor for today's episode. It is AG1. AG1 has been something that I've really enjoyed using in my spare time. 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole source food nutrients in one scoop that you can use into your water. You stir it up. I use it before my workouts, before I start my day, and it has totally given me the energy I need to do the little things in life, like going to work, getting extra, an extra boost, a second wind, if you will, for a workout. Before I play pickleball with my friends, just it puts you in a good spirit of mind, and you're doing the healthiest possible thing by putting AG1 in your body. Make sure to check us out and get a special deal with the Bruin Bible. It's www.drinkag1.com/BruinBible to get the special deal that we provide. Once again, www.drinkag1.com/BruinBible to get that special deal. Now, back to the Bruin Bible. What is up, and welcome to a brand new edition of the Bruin Bible, also on 1090, the mightier ESPN radio here in Southern California. Game week has come, Madman. This is a game that we have circled long in the offseason. Our trip to Rice-Eccles Stadium to play the Utah Utes, opening up Pac-12 play. I can't think of a better game to start this off for us. Madman, how are we doing on this fine evening leading in to Saturday's matchup?
Doing well, Thriller. Always a pleasure to be on the horn with you. Getting very excited. The anticipation is growing here as now it feels like the real season begins. And this is the first of three consecutive ranked opponents for UCLA. This is one of the three big road games that you and I have circled on the calendar since the schedule came out several months ago as one of the three games that UCLA is going to be an underdog. And if they can pull off one or two of these victories, it can be a double-digit win season. It can be a really historic season. So it all begins with the two-time defending Pac-12 champions, the Utah Utes, and very, very excited to get into it.
And let's start talking about it off the rip. 16-game home win streak at Rice-Eccles Stadium. They only trail University of Michigan and University of Georgia in the longest home win streaks. And, ask any USC fan how tough that place is to play. USC had a huge lead. They blew the game to Utah. Not that we were mad about it as UCLA. We loved it, seeing them choke away a game over there. But very interesting team when you break it down, as this team is 3-0, and they've beaten two Power 5 teams, including Florida, who just upset number 11 Tennessee this past weekend. They beat them handily 24-11. And it's even more interesting if you look at the talent level and what they have been missing on their football roster. It all starts at the top with Cam Rising. He actually had his ACL repaired in the offseason by the same surgeon that did Aaron Rodgers' ACL this past week. El Atrache, I believe that is his name. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Will. Absolutely.
Yes, El Atrache still has not cleared Rising to play. So it's driving Utah fans crazy. Whittingham at Media Day when we were out there in July was like, yeah, we're expecting him, to be ready by week 1. He still hasn't played 3 weeks into the season. We're almost getting into October territory. He still has not sniffed the field for Utah, causing a lot of concern there. Brant Kuithe, this guy was preseason first team all tight end within the Pac-12, and this guy, a lot of people thought he was arguably better than Dalton Kincaid last year before he got hurt in the opening weeks of the season. He has not been cleared to return. He's nearing a return, according to the radio show that he was on for ESPN, Salt Lake City, but he has not been really healthy. Junior Tafuna, man, this guy was the number one, preseason all Pac-12 defensive tackle first team. This guy's missed 2 of the 3 games. Devon Vele, Micah Pittman, they're 2 outside receivers, man. These guys missed Weber State last week. So the barrage of injuries has been crazy for Utah, and yet they stand here 3-0. And I think it's just a testament to what Kyle Whittingham has built at Utah. In my money, the best head coach within the Pac-12 as a whole.
No question about it, Will. He is the best coach in the Pac-12, and it's really a testament to the program that he has built. It's very ironic. The Utah beginning to this season in many ways is such a juxtaposition because you talked about the key injuries, but on the flip side, they probably have more talent at the skill position than they've ever had before from a recruiting standpoint. And so this is a very different type of offense right now. I think defensively, Utah is still Utah, and we'll get into it. But I think offensively, the fascinating part here is all the talk about Dante Moore and a freshman coming into Utah. Utah's got a freshman of their own at quarterback in Nate Johnson, and he came in, Will, in that second game. Obviously, Utah kind of set the house on fire with that opening win against Florida with Barnes, who had come into that Rose Bowl game and played so well when Rising did get hurt against Ohio State a couple of years ago. And he came in, dropped that first 70-yard bomb, and then Utah's defense was able to create enough separation to hold off that victory. That second game against Baylor, Utah was in a world of hurt. Whittingham makes that change from Barnes. The offense starts stagnating to Nate Johnson. Nate Johnson goes 6 for 7 for 82 yards and wins that game in the fourth quarter, turns a 7-point deficit into a 7-point victory. And the combination of Nate Johnson's poise with his ability to run the ball as a dual threat quarterback, along with Jaquindon Jackson, who terrorized USC in that Pac-12 championship game, really gives this team a very formidable combination on the ground. And what's so ironic, Will, you mentioned it earlier, when you think Utah, you think tight end in the way that you think offensive line at Wisconsin. For the first time, probably since Alex Smith was there, Utah's 4 leading receivers on the season are wide receivers. And, they've got 2 real studs on the outside, one being Money Parks, who's got 138 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. He's got a lot of breakaway speed. He's twitchy. And he's very, very explosive. And then you got Mikey Matthews, the freshman out of Irvine, California, with another 120 yards receiving. And then wide receivers 3 and 4, Will. One is Munir McClain. And for LA football fans, that name would ring familiar because he played at SC all the way back in 2019 and then transferred to Utah. And then the aforementioned Devon Vele, who was last year's leading wide receiver, right now is slotted in at wide receiver number 4. So it's a fascinating dichotomy here with Utah offensively, where they've got more athleticism at the quarterback position as well as more athleticism on the outside. And then you couple that, Will, with the defensive side of the ball, where it looks like Cole Bishop, their safety, has really kind of taken the reins, the torch, if you will, as that secondary captain from Clark Phillips. And when you talk about the 14 tackles, the 2 sacks, the interception on the year, he's just been all over the field. And then, of course, Utah's always going to have great edge production. They've got Jonah Ellis, the junior out of Moscow, Indiana, 2 sacks on the year. And then they've got Logan Fano, who's a freshman that they really love at defensive end, another 2 sacks. Those guys providing the pressure on the outside. And then Domani, their linebacker, who's their leading tackler on the year, is basically their version of Moasau, and he's clogging up the lanes left and right. So this team is so stacked defensively. And then you couple that, if Cam Rising plays, they're going to look like the Utah of old. But they have these new wrinkles here with Johnson and these wide receivers where they're a little bit more explosive than we remember Utah to be. So UCLA is going to have their hands full.
Yeah, and Nate Johnson led the team in rushing against Florida and against Weber State last week. So this guy's got some wheels at the quarterback position. Money Parks, if that name sounds familiar, he dusted USC in the Pac-12 championship game.
Exactly.
7-yard score. But I think that just goes to say how deep they are when you have the Money Parks, and the USC transfer at wide receiver. But Devon Vele, this guy just hasn't been able to get it going yet because he's been kind of banged up. Micah Pittman, go back and follow this guy's recruitment. He's Michael Pittman's younger brother. This guy is from NFL royalty lineage. He transferred in from Florida State. He hasn't really gotten going yet either. So imagine what this team will be like that's already 3-0, that's already coming off of beating a Florida that has proven to be, back on track with all these guys healthy, with their starting quarterback, their tight end, first team all Pac-12 tight end, and these 2 wideouts. It's incredible what Utah can be. And, you mentioned Jaquindon Jackson, 6.5 yards per carry, electric. He's very similar to UCLA's Colson Yankoff, where he was a quarterback at LSU and then transferred to Utah. And it wasn't working out the quarterback room. He actually famously was in that quarterback battle with Charlie Brewer, the former Baylor guy that came over that lost the job to Cam Rising, kind of the beginning of Cam Rising's run at Utah. And then, it just wasn't working out there, so they had to put him at running back last year when they were having issues with Tavian Thomas, their tailback. And boy, has he blown up. He is so explosive, so smooth with the ball in his hands. I think this guy's going to be an NFL draft pick this year. I think he's very, very solid. So a lot of good things to look forward to. And Madman, I want to know your opinion on this, because this is the matchup that I'm looking forward to the most in this game. It's the offensive mind of Chip Kelly and what he brings to the table against Kyle Whittingham's defensive mind. And, UCLA Chip Kelly offenses we know are explosive. We finally got a passing game in place that really looks the part. The run game really hasn't started yet, but he's saving it for Pac-12 play. Whereas Kyle Whittingham, he's allowing 10 points per game with the Junior Tafunas missing and the Connor O'Toole's. The defensive end for Utah this past week said that guy's our best defensive end. He hasn't even touched the field yet this year. So, when you have that going for you, and, you had 5 selections to all first team and all second team Pac-12 first and second. You got guys out there, man. It's going to be a fun battle. What do you think about Chip Kelly going against Kyle Whittingham in the key matchup?
Well, I think that's a very key matchup, but I think the real key matchup is going to be UCLA's offensive line against this Utah front. And I think that's where this is kind of the ultimate test here. How does Holstege, how does Clemens, how does Wiley hold up against this big, nasty interior as well as explosive on the outside front seven on the road? Crowd is going to be bananas. That if this offense kind of goes off schedule for a play, they're going to get even more involved. They're going to dial up the pressure even more. So we've had some questions about the offensive line. We've talked about it earlier in the season. Their sort of inability to maybe salt some of these early games away against Coastal, against San Diego State, really be completely dominant. How do they hold up now against these edge rushers, against Domani at linebacker, Cole Bishop coming off of a safety blitz from the blind side? How do they read and react? And I think this is going to be a big game for Duke Clemens and particularly Holstege to sort of stabilize things on that blind side. And I think that's going to be the key matchup because Dante, if he's got time, his arm, the explosiveness of Sturdivant, there's enough speed now on the outside between Loya, between Norwood, between Cam Brown, where there's going to be some openings. Given how Chip runs this offense from a tempo perspective, Steele is going to be very physical in this game. Harden will find a crease from time to time, but it's going to be how do you stay on schedule in this game? How do you stay in 2nd and 6 and not 2nd and 16? How do you stay 3rd and 4 and not 3rd and 14? So this game is going to come down to UCLA's offensive line. It's the first test. We've had a couple quizzes. We've had a couple take-home assignments. Now it's midterm season. So we're going to find out what this offensive line is all about in this game.
And I'd argue the same for Dante Moore, too. This is his first real big game. He's passed every test so far with flying colors. But San Diego State, and, the HBCU that came into our house last week, North Carolina Central, those are not what Utah is, especially on the road in that environment. This is going to be a tough game. So I'm very, very excited to see what
I think, Will, I totally agree with you. And I think that is going to be the interesting battle here is the battle at quarterback, because you said it. Dante, 615 yards, 7 touchdowns, and basically 7 quarters of work, 2 games at home, a air quotes road game against San Diego State of about 30,000 people. They were festive. They were feisty, but it's nowhere near what this is going to be. This is going to be his first true road game. His first true road game as a contender. He's a true freshman. How does he handle the multiple looks that Whittingham is going to show? They're going to dial up the pressure. They're going to dial back. How is he going to handle the weather? How is he going to handle the snap count and the cadence? How is he going to handle the crowd? On the flip side, if you look at Utah, Nate Johnson has not seen a front seven the likes of UCLA between Latu and the Murphy twins, the 10 sacks. the 6 interceptions. UCLA's had 16 disruptive plays the first 3 years. That's 5.3 disruptive plays per game, which is significantly higher than they've had the last 2 years. So Nate Johnson, it's also going to be a level jump there. And even if Cam Rising comes back in this game and plays in this game, he hasn't played in 9 months. This is a very difficult first game for Cam Rising. So Utah, for all that they can be a couple weeks from now, a couple months from now, where they are right now at quarterback, who handles the moment better? Whether it's the freshman Nate Johnson or whether it's the senior and Cam Rising and fighting off that rust versus Dante Moore, that is going to go a significantly long way in this game. And the other point I'll make, Will, is it's also going to be a really big game for the secondary because, to our point, no Keithy. You're talking about all of these guys on the field. 5 guys we've mentioned now, Will, on the outside for Utah. The secondary has been a little bit of feast and famine, but we saw what happens when you go famine when Utah hit that big bomb against Florida. It got the crowd involved. It got Utah's pass rush going. The game was just played on Utah's terms. And I think Utah, given where they are offensively right now, they want to build that 10-0 lead, 10-3 lead, 13-3 lead, quarter and a half into the game, and then work their defense, work the field, work the crowd, and play the game on their schedule. If UCLA can go shot for shot with them, if UCLA takes an early lead and puts some pressure on that Utah offense, now all of a sudden they're more on their heels, more turnovers can come. So that start is going to be critical, and how UCLA plays sound situational football in the secondary will be the other thing to really watch for.
Absolutely. And, to your credit, like Holstege and Clemens, I'm not worried about those guys. I'm worried about the other guys in the line. Like your Bruno Finas, your Josh Carlins. They've got to come out to play. Like Clemens has got 35, 36 starts in Pac-12. I love him. And Holstege has looked really good in the early returns of his work. Caught confidence in Garrett DiGiorgio as well. But yes, secondary, we've been able to get by due to the turnovers that we've been able to generate from the secondary in terms of interceptions. So that is huge to watch. But yeah, man, I am with you. I think it's going to be a battle of the lines, the line of scrimmage. Utah is famously a tough football team. They outlast, they outmuscle their opponents. UCLA is going to have to be doing just that coming game time. Madman, give me 2 guys. It doesn't have to be both offense, doesn't have to be both defense, but 2 guys in general. If UCLA is able to go into Rice-Eccles Stadium and this 16-game win streak, who are the players you're looking at that are going to determine the outcome for UCLA?
Well, I think a guy in it, one will be sort of an in the box, and then I think one will be a little bit more out of the box. The one in the box here I think it's going to have to be Kyle Ford. And I think this is the Kyle Ford game. And we've been kind of looking for it here. I think in this type of an environment where you're on the road, where you're going through some challenges and adversities, you need that security blanket in the middle of the field when the going gets tough. Sturdivant's going to be Sturdivant. We know that. He's going to have his 80 to 110 yards in this game, his 4 to 6 catches in this game. He's going to make a big impact at various points in the game. But in those key moments, I think this in-between game now for UCLA is going to have to come up to the forefront. It's interesting, Will. This season, what we have seen is UCLA's formations have been a lot wider than they were in years past. We talked so much the last couple of years on the bunch formations, the tighter formations, the role of the tight ends more, the role of the slot receivers more, the likes of Dulcich and Phillips, even Kaz Allen in sort of these bunch formations. UCLA having so much more talent now on the outside has allowed them to go wider in their formations and go deeper with their routes. And so that plays to your advantage to be more explosive. But in particular, if you aren't as confident with your offensive line holding up in pass protection for these receivers to get deeper, you need more of an underneath guy that's going to be physical and going to be able to get open. Norwood, for as fast as he is, Loya, for as fast as he is, they're slender in the frame. You're going to need a bigger target. I think Kyle Ford is going to play a really pivotal role in some key second and third down situations to keep the chains moving. And then I think, Will, on the defensive side of the ball, I think the key here is going to be someone from the secondary is going to now need to separate. And I think that one person could very well be, this could be the Davies game where we've seen his ball skills Obviously, we've seen the likes of Alex Johnson and Humphreys and everyone else do really great things. Davies has always kind of shown us flashes, Will, for the last year and a half. And I think this could be a game where there's a ball that's floating or there's an opportunity at a forced fumble in the secondary. Those Utah receivers sometimes are a little loose with the ball. I think there could be a really nice opportunity with some physical play in the secondary. So, if the protection holds up, Moore is going to be Moore. Steele's going to be physical on the ground. Harden's going to be Harden. Latu's going to be Latu. But I think this could be a sneaky game here for Kyle Ford and Davies.
Yeah, I think those are great picks. I'll give you two right back. I'm going with Muasau, man. Who was the guy that flipped the switch last year in the road?
Yes, sir.
The interception in the red zone on Cam Rising, that really, it was the first time UCLA fans were like, wow, we're in this game. We have a chance to win. This guy was first team all preseason Pac-12 at the linebacking position. This is where the senior leadership of Muasau needs to step up on these road games in tough environments out against a ranked team in Utah that's just on the border of the top 10. Give me Muasau. If we win this game, I'm looking at 10 or 11 big-time plays for Muasau. This guy was just Reese's Senior Bowl Defensive Player of the Week 2 weeks ago. Let's see that again this week and have a big-time performance, whether he's affecting in the run game, on blitzes, and in the pass game and what he can bring. And then lastly, I could have gone in a variety of different directions here. I think Loya is going to be very key. Ironically, another guy that played very big in last year's game on the 76-yard touchdown to kind of seal the game. But the guy I'm going with is TJ Harden, man. I think it's going to come down to a very close game late in the fourth quarter. And the early returns we've seen from Harden is this guy breaks one every single game. Like that 50-yard run, whether it was against San Diego State, whether against North Carolina Central. I think it's going to be a close game, and then Harden is just going to take the top off the defense and kind of seal the game for UCLA as the way Logan Loya did last week. And if that sounds like I'm picking UCLA, that's because I am. UCLA, in my opinion, is coming out big in this game. I'm going 35-32 UCLA at Rice-Eccles, snapping the win streak, and UCLA is for real amongst college football fans. What do you think about that, Madman? And who's your pick?
Thriller, I love that pick. And I think, Harden's ability to break one, I think can separate a very tight game. I couldn't agree with you more. I love UCLA in this game as well. I think the matchup lines up very well. I think it's going to be slightly lower scoring. I see it 27-23. UCLA comes out victorious and heads to 4-0.
I love it, man. Well, great day on 1090 The Mightier. We're going to have other segments coming up your guys' way from the LA Football Network. UCLA Bruin Bible. We are out till next week. Looking forward to speaking with you guys. Go Bruins. Get home safe, and make sure you tune in on Saturday.